Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Become a Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Jennifer Byrne on the line, and she's CEO at Arrived Workforce Connections. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Jennifer. So I'm excited to talk more about today's topic. So we'll talk more about Arrived Workforce Connections and really the state-of-the-art digital platform and what it's doing to bridge a gap between great people and great work. And to get us started, I'll start this episode like we start them all with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Jennifer, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Jennifer, what mission matters to you?
I care a lot about making sure that people know how to survive and hopefully thrive in a world that's getting increasingly more digital. I think there's a growing digital divide, which is the unhappy consequence of there being a lot of technology in the world. It follows a socioeconomic divide largely. A lot of people who have tech skills, the digital skills, are doing really well in their careers will do really well because the economy is growing and tech makes a lot of things possible. But if you don't have the help to thrive in your own career as that gets more digital, then that might be a problem. And I think it's something that requires a lot of us working together to solve, and that's what matters most to me.
That's awesome. And I love bringing mission-based executives on the line to talk about why they do what they do and, what motivates them and gets them all fired up to get up in the morning and to make a difference out there in the world. So thank you for sharing that. And I understand that you have a deep knowledge of tech in general. I mean, just looking at some of the things that you've done in the past, a former CTO at Microsoft US. I mean, definitely accomplished in the field. There's some people listening to this right now that are maybe, not quite as far along. Maybe they're just graduating college or they're just getting started in their careers and they're thinking about, that road to becoming a CTO or really, that type of career. What kind of advice would you give to that new group of potential executives out there right now?
Well, I would say develop a habit around two things, being extremely curious, and I can tell you why that's important, and also a habit around learning. One of the lessons I learned, I would say, in the kind of the midpoint of my career was that I needed to have a lot of broad competency in order to become an executive. And that's not, and they may teach that in business school, but a lot of people don't go to business school and wouldn't necessarily know that in any career you choose to follow or any work journey you choose to follow, there are always things where you have to have a lot of depth. In the finance world, there would be finance skills that you have to have in depth, or in tech or healthcare, wherever it is. But you have to balance those with broad competency because you have to be able to apply your skill to a real world challenge. And executives typically don't have the luxury of just being good at one thing. They actually have to know how to solve big problems, and those big problems have lots of pieces or components. So to make that real, if you have a computer science degree or some kind of technology degree or background, and you want to figure out how to, grow your career, then figure out more about the problem that you're trying to solve. Maybe you're a technologist in healthcare, which means you need to understand the healthcare industry so that you would know how to apply technology to it, or the construction industry, or wherever it is. So it is a broad competency that I think you have to build, and the best time to start thinking about that is when you are earlier in your career, because you often have a little bit more latitude in terms of the kinds of jobs that you take. And beyond the industry knowledge, also just having broad competency across all the functions or organizations of a business makes you a really valuable employee, that you can be a technologist, but understand a little bit about how sales works or marketing works or finance works, makes you really agile and adaptable and valuable to the company.
That's awesome. And just switching gears a bit, let's go into Arrive Workforce Connection. So maybe you start off with telling us a little bit more about the company.
Sure. So we just rebranded about a week ago. We were formerly a company called Gig Ronin, and the company was founded in 2017. I was not one of the founders, but it was founded by three people who had been in the HR tech space and staffing space for a really long time. And they saw this need to create a digital platform that they would use in their own staffing agency. And because so many of the problems around staffing have to do with the cost of doing it and the expense of doing it, the lack of transparency to your talent pool and your clients. And so many of those problems can be solved with digital technologies. And so they built a platform. COVID hit, and they realized, wow, this is a struggle right now for us because nobody's hiring. They were largely in the retail, hospitality, and light industrial sectors where people stopped hiring for 9 or 10 months or a year. But they did have this super valuable platform. So they made a decision to pivot and to become a tech provider in that space. And that's when I originally got to know them. I was the chairperson of their advisory board, specifically to help them figure out how to be a tech company. And that was my background. So I sat on the board with them for about 15 months, all the way through the launch of their product in July of this year. And at that point, took on the role or agreed to take on the role as CEO. And what we do now is exactly that. It's a digital platform that we serve up to staffing agencies and also direct employers that we think is very different because it is optimized for the worker experience. If you look across all of the technology in the HR tech ecosystem, a lot of it is actually optimized for the challenges within the staffing agency or the challenges within the direct or the employer world. Super fair, right? There are actually a lot of challenges associated with getting people. How do you find them? How do you recruit them? How do you hire them and deploy them? Very, very complicated workflow or set of workflows around labor. And so a lot of these platforms are designed to solve those problems. But what we see in the market right now is that people aren't going back to work. That's great resignation. And if you double click on that, most of the labor shortages are in the lower half of the wage scale. They're with people who are in shift-based work, dynamically scheduled work, lightly skilled, unskilled, and they are demanding a better experience. And there's a lot of ways you can give them a better experience. There's actually some really great workforce management tools out there that are solving it in their own way. But one of the missing pieces we're seeing in staffing agencies and in some employers is the ability for people to just say, hey, via mobile app, this is who I am. This is when I can work. This is where I live, and this is where I'd be willing to work. These are my skills and certifications. These are my employee ratings and reviews. And if you can give me a job that meets all these needs, I will definitely show up. But a lot of the technology out there isn't designed to do that. So we have a mobile app that connects to a matching platform that you access via a portal that proactively matches people to the jobs that meet their needs. And when those people gain more skills or more degrees or more ratings and they're capable or want something more, then that's what they get because they upgrade their profile in the mobile app, and that in turn gets matched to whatever jobs that they want.
Wow, that's so exciting. And what I like about it is it's just creating really win-win scenarios there. I mean, the employers get more, they get, let's just say, talent that more suits their needs. And then the employees or the potential employees, I mean, they get a better work environment and on their terms. And I think just the whole idea of focusing from the employee side is pretty unique. And I think that it opens up a whole nother possibility of allowing them to be able to really navigate, let's just say, I don't know if the right word is like a non-traditional career. Like how would you put that? Kind of like this next workforce that we're in where it's a little bit more fluid. Like how would you characterize that?
I mean, I use a certain term. It may not be industry standard. I just like to think about work. First of all, the idea of a work journey versus a career is just a slight mindset shift.
I like that shift, by the way. That's so much more. It's more like a life. It's more like how life is. It's a journey, right?
And isn't that what it usually is for people? I mean, very rarely do you meet someone who tells you that they're doing the thing they studied in college. We almost all have these windy paths that we take, but it's been, maybe it's a stigma, around that journey. So we tend to smooth out the differences when we talk about our own careers, because we want it to make sense. Like, I did this thing, and then I have these really logical sequences of building blocks that I traveled along to get to where I am right now. And I think we do that because it's always been the expectation when you go for a job interview, you're talking to an interviewer, they want your history to make sense. And that linear sequential process has been the expectation. And so it's sort of a self-perpetuating thing that we do, where we try to pretend that everything we do is the logical outcome of everything we did. But really, when you double click on people's journeys, it's actually not that way at all. The number of times I've met and hired people in tech who are philosophy majors or didn't go to college or studied music or, and then they somehow found their way in. That was more of the norm than not. So I like the idea of a work journey because I think it actually reflects what we actually do. Also, it allows us we can give ourselves a little bit more permission to do this strange thing or the unexpected thing or make the career jump or try to leverage our existing skills into a new job, which is really way more applicable in today's world than ever before because everything's changing, right? Tech's changing everything, but the world is just changing. And the pandemic has been a great proof of, you can have surprising things happen and all of a sudden the world changes. And how are you going to be ready for that future that's kind of unknowable? One way to do that is to not be so tied to your career that you think it's the only thing you can ever do. In fact, you probably can do a lot of things. And if you think about it as a journey or a series of adventures, you're probably in a better mental space to go be successful.
Yeah, that's well said, and I just have to laugh because whenever I have a conversation about just employment or anything like that in general, I'm like, well, I can tell you one thing. I did not go to school to be a podcaster. I don't even know if they had podcasts back then. So you want career advice there, you never know what you're going to get. I guess that'd be my advice. So don't ask me. That's why I bring people like you on the line to give the insight. And speaking of insight, so let's take that theme maybe one step deeper. And let's think about maybe how should some tools or some things that the people that are out there navigating the workspace in general, like how should they be approaching this?
Well, one of my favorite things is that you have to grow where you're planted. You can't pretend to be somewhere else in your career. You have the skills you have the preferences you have, you live where you live. And that's just your reality. And so anything you do has to be from that context. So if you are trying to get into tech and you work for a retail company, try to figure out what tech and retail looks like. What are the particular systems that people use? What kinds of tech skills are most in demand in that industry? So you have to sort of grow where you're planted. I also think that you have to look at yourself from the perspective of someone who's willing to hire you and be very clear around what you think those expectations would be. We typically, as hiring managers, are so much less about the hard skills, or maybe not, they are very important, but we're looking for character attributes. We're looking for discipline and resolve and creativity and passion and work ethic. And we want those things to show up in the context of the skills that you create. And so, you have to think about how you would do that. How would you go demonstrate that you're a good learner? Well, go take a bunch of online courses and get a couple certifications and put that in your LinkedIn profile. How do you show resolve? Make sure you're staying at jobs for, a couple of years. There's a lot of ways that you need to sort of look at yourself from the outside in in order to make yourself look like somebody who's hireable. But the single most important thing I think anyone can be doing is to demonstrate that you're on a continuous learning journey and that you're willing to take a little bit of risk. I'm guessing in your story of becoming a podcaster, you probably had a few moments where you said, I'm going to go do something different, right? And when you mapping that career, that is a story of resilience, right? It's a story of adventure. It's a story of risk taking. It's a story of resolve. And that's what people want to see.
Great. Yeah. Definitely agree that going the media route was a risk, and everybody said I was crazy. So that's and maybe I was a little, but it's kind of fun to think of it as a journey that way. And as you mentioned, well, Jennifer, I just have to say it's been great having you on the show today. So if there's somebody listening to this right now and they want to learn more about Arise, whether they're an employer or they're out there looking for a job, I mean, I guess multiple different ways that people can follow up. I mean, what's the best way for people to connect with your team and just a platform in general?
Yeah, for sure. AriseJobs.com. That's our website. Love to see people there. If you'd like to talk to me personally, I am very active on LinkedIn. So just look up Jennifer Byrne, AriseJobs.com. You'll find me there, and love to chat with your audience anytime.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again, Jennifer, for coming on this show. I learned a lot. I hope my audience did as well. And for everybody tuning in, if this is your first time, definitely hit that subscribe button. At Mission Matters, we're all about bringing on executives, entrepreneurs, and experts that are mission-based and are that out there trying to do something good and meaningful in the world. And our job over here is really to get their message out there and to get it heard. So if you're interested in that type of content, definitely hit the subscribe button and continue. We have many more mission-based individuals coming up next, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Jennifer, really, it has been a pleasure. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you.